Thank you for listening to the Old English D podcast. New episodes are live every Tuesday, so make sure to subscribe and follow to keep up to date on all the new episodes. And as we always say, go Tigers.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Old English D, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kasey, of course, joined by Josh. Oh, man, my friend. Oh, buddy. Oh, wow. We are fresh off of the first Mets game, and I am emotionally exhausted. Tigers are 4-0, though. Isn't that so much fun? How are we doing on this fine Monday evening?
It has been a emotional roller coaster of baseballness for Tigers fans the last 5 days. It's been interesting. You can't complain about 4-0 though. You just can't. It's just such a good feeling to be ahead of the 8 ball this early in the year. It's been a while since we've been here. What was it, 2016? 2015?
2016 was the first time, or was the last time since we've been 3-0. Now we're back to 2015 since we've been 4-0. So, I mean, call it what it is. Call it timely hitting. Call it good pitching. I'm gonna coin it, and this is what we're gonna call it from here on out. You can buy into this. You can buy into this, but I'm going to start calling it blue-collar baseball. That's what I'm going to start calling it.
I like
because,
it.
Because,
I like
wow, it's been a time. But, before we get into all that, before we jump into everything baseball and Tigers talk, how have you been? How was your Easter? How was your weekend? I took a little bit of a long weekend, of course, to enjoy the Tigers. I know you had some family stuff to do over the Easter weekend, but I feel like it's been a while. How have you been, my friend?
Been good. It does feel like we haven't talked in a minute, and that's crazy considering the start of Tigers baseball. We've texted quite a bit about the games, but Easter weekend was good. The fam is all out of town this week, so it's been kind of a odd Thanksgiving. Wow, it has been
couple months early on that one. Yeah,
yep. It was a good Easter. Had a little nice Easter dinner here at the house with the fam, and actually went to bed early last night and got extra rest.
That's wonderful. It prepared you so well for a Monday morning that went just perfectly great, like you were just telling me. Isn't that
right? Less than ideal morning for me this morning. Involved bleeding in the attic of a hotel, but that has nothing to do with the rest of.
It's things happen, and these things just kind of find their way over to us. You mentioned that we've been texting back and forth. Can you call screaming back in all capital letters and just emojis flying back and forth? Is that considered talking, or is that just being really, really angry or really, really excited about certain things?
It technically is talking. Now, whether a lot of people would do it that way or not remains to be seen. But yeah, it's been an interesting start to the year, and I think that would show itself in our text thread, by all means.
Yeah, it's a good thing that thing is not public. This is, of course, the Old English D podcast, where we get together, talk about the best team in baseball. We, of course, have some takeaways from the first series. We have a game to talk about this evening because, realistically, that tonight's game is just all over the place, and I'm sure we have plenty of thoughts that could carry us for plenty too long. And then we also have some divisional, or rather some other divisional games and other games that we took notice of over the weekend in the first series. And we also, of course, kind of skipped the whole final roster decisions, so we're going to kind of go over that briefly as well. But you can, of course, find us on all the socials at the Old English D Pod, and wherever you enjoy podcasts typically. Josh, I know we have plenty of things to talk about the Chicago series, but just real quick, what in the heck did we just watch in the Mets game? The series debut to bring us to an undefeated 4-0 was some of the most boring, some of the most exciting, and some of the most just laugh out loud moments of course, this would be the Tigers in 2024, but we still won the game. And that's like what seems to be the difference between this year's version of the Tigers and the last few years' versions of the Tigers, where I very much think we lose tonight's game any other year. But there's just something in the air, something brewing, something that allows us to win the game. And you can call it baseball gods, you can call it perfection, like whatever you want to call it. It seems to be that someone is on our side. What did you think of tonight's game?
I think that same sentiment would carry us through the entire first, half a week of the season here. Tonight was, you can attest to the fact that I had a minor mental breakdown right around the fifth, sixth inning.
You needed some talking to.
Game.
you had a moment where I'm like, all right, let's settle down here.
I could hear it through the text chain. I could hear it. I heard the tone. I was like, okay, maybe I should throttle it back here for a second. The offense has been a bit spotty through the first 4 games. Now, take this for what you will, but they've been clutch out the window. They've been timely as all get out. And that's important, especially for a young team that's learning how to win baseball games. As maybe Jason Beck said that today, I couldn't remember, but it is a young team. They are learning how to win. They are learning how to play in close games. And to your point that you made earlier this evening, this team is built on the pitching staff, and it is showing, and it's actually working because the pitching staff is doing the heavy lifting. The scoreline for tonight, 5-0, tells a different story, but it's not the true story of how the game went, because all 5 of those runs came in the 10th inning off of Michael Tonkin, I believe is his name. So it didn't really tell the full story of tonight. We'll take the breathing room finally late in the game. My heart couldn't really handle another, whoever was going to come out there. I mean, it wasn't going to look like it did. But
yeah, I don't think
exciting game tonight. I
was going to say I think Benetti said it in the broadcast, which real quick, hats off to Benetti and company. I mean, you can say what you will about Bally in the past or whatever, and Simo still has his moments, but Benetti is just he is a class act. And he was saying, I think this would have been the only 4-0 start to have all the wins be by 1 run. Of course, there's been a handful of teams that have done it 3-0, and we were we were not one of them. This was the first time in franchise history that we had done that. But there was no one that had done it 4-0. And so that would have been just insane. And you're right. I don't think either of us could have taken that. I truly think that there would have been some kind of come to Jesus moment that we would have had to have, because it's like, yeah, you're winning the baseball game, but at the same time, it's like, how much of that is luck and how much of these things can go the other way? And there's a quote actually that doesn't really fit necessarily into either of our takeaways or whatever, but I just want to throw it out there because it's a quote that Petzold, or it's a question that AJ answered that Evan Petzold of the Detroit Free Press. He asked him about, what do you like to see about that, taking this undefeated record into Queens and into the second season, or second series rather, of the season. And AJ says this, quote, "I think the biggest thing that I value in a team after 3 games is preparedness. The transition from the spring training facility to the major league season is never the same. There's always a gap of time. There's always a bad weather. There's always transitioning to playing your team against the full team for the first time. But preparedness is something that you cannot control. For me, some of the little things that we've done in the first 3 games I've been very pleased with. We're also a fraction away from losing those games. We had 1-run wins. We're not going to settle in that record. We're not going to settle in that the record is the defining characteristic. But our preparedness is why I'm more proud of our team than ever, necessarily more than the wins. We want to win as many games as we can, but you can tell when a team is prepared and when a team is not prepared. I feel like in Chicago, we were locked in." End quote. And it's you can chalk it up to luck, you can chalk it up to timely hitting, you can chalk it up to a lot of things, but I like that Hinch is acknowledging you can tell that we were prepared. And while tonight it didn't look like we were prepared to hit anything off of Manaea, we were ready for the end of the game to have the potential to take the lead late and also be able to secure the lead and get the win. And while it is unfortunate, right, that Sean Manaea, someone who we wouldn't necessarily think of as an ace pitcher, the Mets don't even think of him as an ace pitcher. They're running him out 4th in order of their pitching, and someone who is a long way removed from his years in Oakland, to pitch as well as he did against us and to really not be mixing his stuff as much as he was. Threw a lot of fastballs first time through the order, a lot of hittable fastballs first time through the order, and we were not able to do anything against him, to take advantage of that. But we hung around, right? And this is what Scott was talking about. This is why we have the pitching staff that we do, because we can keep these games close, and then once we get to their bullpen, once we get to their more hittable pitchers, it's like, oh, this is what's happening. Of course, there's nitpicky things. Riley Green is in some kind of slump to start the year. Javi Baez is still swinging at everything. Has a better average than Riley though, and it is a question of like, what if we didn't get those timely hits? But to be 4-0 in the situation that we're in, I'll take it. So for the Chicago series specifically, as now we're moving into the Mets series, and now we're 1-0 in that series. What were a few of your takeaways from that series over the weekend?
A lot of stuff going on, a lot of storylines, and this happens every year. It always ends up being storylines that neither one of us really thought of, and it's always something. Canna is such a professional hitter, and it's something that I was not prepared for. Even looking at the way he approached spring training, now looking back at it too, the way he just took his time and got into the groove, he's poised to be one of those hitters that, I don't think he has the same power, but has the same type of approach as Victor Martinez in his stint with the Tigers, where he just is a tough at-bat every time. He doesn't give away an at-bat. He always grinds it out. He's going to get his walks. His on-base percentage is going to be fantastic all year long. Truly a Billy Beane archetype player that would fit right along with the A's, and it makes sense that he came from Oakland as well. But just I've really enjoyed watching him hit. He's apparently sneaky fast. We didn't know that either, so that was interesting to watch. But yeah, Canna has been probably the most, with probably Carson Kelly, has been one of the more pleasant surprises on the offensive side.
Can I say I called it? In our prediction episode? I'm like, I think he's going to be our best hitter. I think he's going to be our most consistent hitter. And here he is. Dude, he's a gamer, right? I mean, like, it's funny. He doesn't, he's not very good with an interview. He's kind of like, he's just kind of a dude, and just he kind of says things. I don't know if you've caught him on a few interviews, but he and that's kind of his mentality. He just doesn't really do anything amazing, but he's going to do all the little things well. And when he's going about his business, when he's leading by example, he's allowing these kids to watch him and see exactly what, like you mentioned, a professional hitter is. And dude, I mean, like he works an at bat better than anyone on this team right now. And I was so mad tonight when he got hit by the pitch late in the game, because I felt like that was like one of our only chances to actually scratch across something. And I mean, it ended up working out, but yeah, he's the heartbeat of the lineup right now. I hope Javi can take some cues from him, because he could use it. What was another takeaway you had from Chicago?
Man, we could not talk about that series without talking about the bullpen. It just wouldn't be able to happen. The bullpen, especially the back end, but really all throughout, has just been electric. Foley, opening day save, throwing 102 with his sinker, with absolutely ridiculous diagonal movement away from left-handed hitters, is disgusting. Shelby Miller has been, again, to your credit, you predicted this as well, but he's just been dynamite as well. Just getting outs, not doing anything super fancy, just getting a lot of outs, not a lot of stress in his appearances. Holton has looked amazing. It looks like he's trying to build on his year last year. Will Vest has got us out of a couple of sticky situations already, with some really high pressure outings in, not necessarily a save situation, but again, one of those high leverage situations where we need an out, we need 2 outs, we need to get out of a jam, and Will Vest has come in and done the job. Even Big Country coming in and giving up that home run in Chicago didn't really bother me that much, because he had gotten outs opening day, and I mean, it was one mistake pitch that he had, and he got hurt on it. But yeah, the bullpen all around has been absolutely amazing. So you can't talk about the Chicago series without talking about the bullpen that pitched, I think, 9 innings?
Yeah,
9
in that
2/3
series,
innings.
Yep. I do. This is fresh off the press, including tonight's game. But Evan Woodbury of M Live put this out just after tonight's game. The bullpen this year: 17 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 5 walks, 19 strikeouts. I mean, like, dude, they've been unhittable, and yes, it's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of different arms, and we'll see how long that lasts. But this is what good baseball teams do. This is what good pitching staffs do. And you mentioned the couple tight spots that Will Vest has gotten us out of. We have to talk about that Eloy Jimenez double play, dude. Like, I don't remember, and maybe it's just because it was last year and you don't, but like, I don't remember a moment creating itself like that than when that ball was hit to McKinstry at third. McKinstry somehow composes himself to step on, and again, bases are loaded, right? Bases are loaded. There's no place to put him. 1 out. The game is a 1-run game. And McKinstry somehow composes himself, gets the force out at third, and then throws the best throw he could have, the best throw that Zach McKinstry could come up with in that moment to Torque, and Torque does everything he can to keep a hold of that ball. And it's just like the emotion and the exuberance and the excitement that this team went through in just the second game of the year. I mean, like, that you are going to find a lot of fun moments with this baseball team, and they're going to be extremely cool to watch. All of the camaraderie and all of the excitement that is brewing in this team, and lockdown, shutout outings from guys like Foley, from guys like Will Vest, Tyler Holton, all the guys that you mentioned. They are just added to this kind of boys club, this kind of mentality of like, you're not going to beat us. Like there's no shot you're going to beat us. It's kind of like the bad boys, the Pistons in the 90s, like, or I guess the 80s. Like, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. We're going to bully you into winning. And that's kind of what our bullpen is developing into right now. Did you have one more takeaway for the Chicago series?
Yeah, I wanted to give a really fast shout out to Jack Flaherty. His start yesterday on Sunday, he started out the day. He got away with actually quite a few pitches over the plate that Chicago really didn't do a whole ton with. I think he missed his spots a little bit. It was a little rusty, it seemed. But he came back, I think, third inning on to the end of his outing. He was just dynamite. He was hitting corners. He had the velocity. His slider was fantastic. He broke out that curveball, too, a couple times, and it looked really crisp as well. So if he can continue to pitch to that level this year, he's going to have himself a bounce-back year, a very, very special year.
He looked awesome, dude. I mean, like, it did take a couple innings, and obviously he got away with a couple things, and bring on the robo-umps, or whatever you want to say. The umpire in that game was quite questionable, and I'm man enough to say that there are plenty of calls that did not deserve to go in Flaherty's direction. But he really used his secondary stuff effectively, and when he knew that, okay, the fastball isn't really being located where I want it to, they kind of know it's coming. I need to be able to mix my pitch. He started going to a slider more often. Interestingly enough, I think he's learning a changeup. There were a couple pitches, dude, that were fading away from lefties at right around 90 miles an hour. I think Fedor's trying to get him to learn some type of off-speed pitch that literally he's going to throw maybe 5% of the time, maybe. And that's kind of all he needs, because he has such a good dispersion between his slider and his knuckle curve. I think that, he can throw both of those pitches so well to both righties and lefties that he really doesn't need that extra thing to throw. But, either it's a very slow two-seam fastball sinker, or it is some kind of change-up that they're trying to get him to manipulate. But whatever it may be, he looked great as he kind of settled in. Another situation where, of course, the bullpen had to come in and help him out. But it's a good thing when our number 3 guy is looking like an ace. And Flaherty, like we kind of expected, went out and did some really exciting things. So my few takeaways for the Chicago series is mentioning a little bit about every game. It seemed like we had to overcome some kind of obstacle in every one of those first 3 games to get the win. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, between the difference between this version of Tigers baseball and the previous versions of Tiger baseball that we've had the blessing of talking about on this podcast. In game 1, we had a very unexpected pitcher's duel where Garrett Crochet, yes, he had a great spring. Yes, he looked elite. And yes, he's done it out of the bullpen plenty of times. It's so different when it's opening day, it's your first major league start, and you have all eyes on you. And you're able just to go out and do that. And really, like, again, maybe it's more of a testament to how our offense has just not gotten off on the right foot or whatever. But he kind of did it with 2 pitches and not a lot else. And I know those pitches are super good, and I know he throws 101, and I get all of it. But, he looked unhittable for a long time. Now, thankfully, our guy was just a little bit better. Scooby had an amazing opening day. It equaled any of Verlander's opening days from the past, and we were able to overcome that and win 1-0. Then, game 2, completely different story, right? We jump off, huge lead early, huge 3-0, but feels huge to us. And then we jump into Maeda's outing, and kind of like what I surmised and kind of what I predicted would happen, he looks hittable, right? I mean, they're not, the White Sox are not fooled by what he's putting out. He's not getting his splitter over. They're not swinging his splitter. His slider looks flat. And, of course, that fastball velocity is still low. They they hit them, right? And then they come right back, and then they even take the lead. And so now we're down by 3 runs. I think it was 6-3 at one point. And we're in this situation where it's like, okay, let's see what we can do. And of course, we come back and win 7-6 in extras. And it's like, oh, we are cooking. Of course, that's the game that had so many ups and downs. And just saying that we won 7-6 does not do that game justice. But that game was insane. But we won it, right? And the win probability graph was literally a roller coaster, and we won it. And then in game 3, you have Riley Green, Parker Meadows, Spencer Torkelson. You can throw Javi Baez in there, all going 0 for 4. Every single one of them went 0 for 4. And I would call that kind of like the core of our lineup. You can throw Colt Keefe in there, 0 for 4. And we somehow win 3-2. Like, it's these kind of next man up, blue collar mentality that this team is just like, try to find a way to beat us, because we're going to find a better way to beat you. And so when it comes to these games, when it comes to, you can even put it on tonight's game too, it's just about getting the win no matter what. And they're finding ways to do it. Did you have any thoughts on a few of those things?
Yeah, I mean, the way that Crochet was dealing, we're thinking, maybe 5 starts max he's got left this year? That's his innings allotment, right?
That's true. They probably are going to put him on some kind of innings limit, and it's probably not going to be much over 100 innings pitched. That's a good point.
Just I hope that didn't get construed as wishing injury upon him, because he was a lot of fun to watch.
That's at first how I took it, but then now I get what you were saying. Yeah.
I mean, weirder things have happened, but yeah, I mean, the offense is going to figure it out at some point. So it is going to have to be this grinded out team that we've kind of seen the last 3-4 years under AJ Hinch, is just, figuring out ways to win ball games. And I think this team is going to get really good at it this year. I think they're going to figure out how to win some games they're not supposed to. So it's good to see early.
Yeah, it's the bootstraps mentality. And it's exactly what Scott and AJ have talked about for so long. Speaking of AJ, another takeaway that I had is AJ is still going to AJ. There were a few questionable decisions that you and I, if we had been sitting in the same room, we would have just looked at each other and been like, what? Like, what? This is how we're doing it? And really the first one that sticks out to me is I think it was the first game where, he has a lefty on the bench. He can go to McKinstry. He has a couple other options, and he leaves Matt Vierling in. Now, riding the hot hand, I think it was a bases loaded situation, 2 outs, and he leaves Matt Vierling in against a pretty dominant right-handed pitcher. And Vierling strikes out. And it's like, what? Why didn't we just go to the righty, or why didn't we just go to the lefty for the righty pitcher? Like, it's like, and so it's like sometimes this 5D chess, and it's just, is this the right choice? Is it not? But then you look at all of these bullpen matchups, and you look at all of this bullpen usage that, again, if we were sitting in the same room, we'd be like, what is happening? Number one, Foley coming out to save the game rather than Alex Lang, who, are we on hashtag Alex Lang watch? Is this what we're in? Because you and I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, he had the job coming out of spring training. I know his spring didn't look great, but he had the job ending the year. Historically, that's kind of how it goes, but things are seemingly in shambles out there as far as roles go. Am I a little crazy here, or?
I mean, going with the whole AJ Hinch thing, we all know how little he likes roles. He usually gets painted into a corner of, no pun intended, but naming a closer. And the job may have been done for him just by how the analytics worked out for opening day, with Foley coming in game 1 and doing what he did, and now having done what he's done the last 3 outings that he's had this year. It may have solved itself, at least for the 9th, or for whatever, the highest leverage situation that's going to come about. But to have, I named him earlier with the bullpen conversation, Foley, Miller, Holton, Vest, and Chafin, to have any of those 5 guys be able to mix and match from the 7th inning on, what a luxury that is for a manager. And, would I rather him name a guy to take the 9th every night? I would. I'm very traditional like that. But when you have 5 options that would be a back end bullpen option on most any team, you can do that kind of stuff.
You're coming around on the Miller situation, aren't you? You're just a little bit. Let's not forget, beginning of the year, spring training. You're like, there's not a chance. There's no chance. You're coming around on the Miller situation.
The Tigers' offense somehow took away a save opportunity from him tonight.
Yeah, he was coming in no matter what. Matter what. Yep. And to that whole AJ's gonna AJ thing. Another example tonight. He left Jake Rogers in to face. I think it was Jorge Lopez, right? And righty on righty matchup, the whole bench of lefties is available, and you leave Jake Rogers, who is DHing tonight, in. Now, of course, immediately the point is that Jorge had already faced his minimum. I'm sure if you bring in a lefty, the other manager's probably going to counter. I get it, I do, and Rogers almost gave us the lead when he had a ball go centimeters out. So again, whatever AJ's looking at, it's working. And that's my point, and that's my takeaway is when you have to win in the margins like this team does, when you don't have a Mookie Betts, when you don't have a Shohei Ohtani, you have to win in the margins. And for this team, someone like AJ, who, talk about preparedness, he's the most prepared guy in all of baseball. And he knows it, and he's going to flaunt it. And that's why Scott gave him the extension. That's why he's been entrusted with this team long term. And that's why, truthfully, I trust in a lot of what he's doing. It can be jaw-dropping sometimes. It can be questionable sometimes. But I also think that AJ knows that Jake Rogers is 1-for-1 against Jorge Lopez with a double, and he's walked against him. Very small sample size, but I guarantee to you that AJ knows that. Did we know that coming into the game? No idea. You know what I mean? We're not doing that. That's not our job. But AJ does. And so if there's even an inkling of a chance that Jake Rogers can get that hit, he probably also knew the bench's numbers against both Jorge Lopez and whatever lefty was warming up. I think it was Brooks Raley. Probably wasn't going to be a good matchup anyways. So he's 10 steps ahead of both you and I, who would like to think that we're smart and understand these situations, but he's also at least 2 steps ahead from the other dugout. And it's good to see, and it's what we deserve as a Tigers fan base. Thirdly, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this one because I'm sure there's people that are already worried about it. I think Colt Keith is going to be just fine. I think there was a lot of bad luck in the first series. He did get his first hit across in the first game, which was important. That was good to see. He drew a couple walks after that and then didn't do much else. Had a couple strikeouts. One thing, I like the at-bats and I like the swing decisions. I think overall in the Chicago series, there were plenty of hard hits that just didn't go his way. Plenty of good fielding from the Chicago White Sox. I'm looking at you, Andrew Vaughn, that were able to overcome Colt Keith really having a great series. And again, if just 2 more of those hard hit balls land, we're talking about a completely different thing. So he did score on the error, or not score. He did drive in the run tonight on the error, so it doesn't count as an RBI. But he was able to kind of quiet the moment, put the ball in play, and really do what we needed to do. Now, again, you can debate, was Joey Wendell going to be able to pull off the double play? I don't know. Colt Keith is kind of sneaky fast. He's very sneaky fast, actually. And so I don't know if he would have gotten him. But again, he quieted the moment. He was able to come up in somewhat clutch in a moment where we needed him. So I don't think anything is going to be too big for this kid. He's just got to get his firsts out of the way. What have you liked out of Colt Keith the first few games?
His defense has been really, really good at second base. And not to lead off on something that no one really truly cares about, but I think that was a worry by some coming into the years that, the movement through the system of playing different positions was going to affect him. It really doesn't look like it has. It looks like that's something he's kind of leaning on right now. We all know what we went through with Torque 2 years ago and him trying to get his first hit. I'm very thankful that Colt got his out of the way game 1, even though it was a little dinker through the infield. I think tonight is a big step for him to get kind of, obviously he didn't start. He gets the at-bat late in the game. Obviously Hinch is showing that he is trusting Colt to be one of the guys in the dugout. He's a lefty. He was with all of the lefties. He got used just the same as everybody else. He got used late in a game. He was trusted with that role. And especially with, how Scott Harris has preached to control the strike zone, putting the ball in play there in extras was huge. You could not strike out in that situation, take the air out of the sails of the comeback. And it just showed a lot of maturity, I think, going forward. Not having that pressure of starting tonight, coming in late, I think hopefully that'll kickstart his next couple weeks here.
Yeah, and he's a big part of what we're doing. I mean, we were talking about it. Of course, we were on lineup watch that Thursday before the first game, and we're like, okay, when are we going to get the lineup? When are we going to get the lineup? And we had already known that AJ was going to be a little bit different, right, with what he was putting out there, even from spring. He didn't want to tip his hand too much. And we knew Garrett obviously was pitching, Garrett Crochet, a lefty, right? So it's like, okay, what lefty is going to sit? Who is going to sit? And I was pretty convinced it was gonna be Colt Keith, and you weren't so bought in, and actually I appreciate that, because you're right, AJ didn't buy into that at all. He wanted Colt to have that moment. Carey Carpenter ended up sitting, and he was able to get his first hit. He wasn't too big to throw out there against 101 nasty slider. He didn't look like the moment got away from him, and he still was able to do something. So he's definitely a core part of this team. He doesn't need to be the guy, but he definitely needs to be a different kind of hitter for this team. And I think as we start to get going, he starts to get comfortable, I think we're going to see something really special. And I think too, with the discussion of, did the contract extension put pressure on him or take pressure off of him? I think it's more so the latter right now, and I think we obviously saw that a lot in spring, and so that's good to see, where it really was going to be one or the other. It's either going to, propel him into something that we weren't even really ready for, into a different stratosphere, or it's going to kind of hold him back and make him feel like, oh man, I have all this money and they're putting so much trust and emphasis on me. What am I going to do? He's not that guy. He's just not that kind of player. So, bootstraps kind of situation, just like the rest of that clubhouse is. So I'm excited for who Colt Keith can be, and I think the money was well spent. Quickly on those, final few roster decisions that we kind of had still mixed up from spring training. We weren't able to obviously talk about the two final cuts that were made to bring us to the 26-man roster out of spring. We knew the bullpen competition was still in the midst of happening. It was between, of course, Joey Wentz, Alex Faedo, Miguel Diaz, and Beau Brieske. And we were pretty convinced that Beau Brieske had a lock for the spot, and it was going to be someone else of the other three. Well, serves us right, because we were completely wrong. Whatever they didn't see in Brieske, whatever it may be, he's going to be a Tiger at some point this year. I'm not worried about that. But the decision was, no Brieske. We're going to DFA Miguel Diaz, because, again, he doesn't actually have any more options. And we're going to take Alex Faedo, because what he's shown this spring has been really, really good, and a lot of improvement in command. And, of course, Joey Wentz, who we still haven't seen in the first 4 games. I just want to point that out. We have not seen Joey Wentz in the first 4 games, where we have used a lot of bullpen arms. Again, 19 innings have gone, or 17 innings, whatever it was, to the bullpen. That's insane. But what are your thoughts on the final two picks that they had? Obviously, Faedo has looked really, really good, and he's only picked up right where he left off in the spring. But what do you think of Faedo and Wentz being the final two picks?
We figured the Wentz thing, like you said. We figured he would be one of those guys. I definitely figured they would give him a little more run early in the year just to kind of get it out of the way. I think if you think about it, there hasn't been a whole lot of low leverage bullpen situations yet, which is I think why they haven't given Lang another look yet after game 2. Also, Joey Wentz hasn't got any time. It's just been interesting. It's going to be so interesting to see how the Tigers use their roster moves this whole entire year. They preached all through spring that, opening day isn't a deadline. It's not a cutoff. Everybody's going to play. There's going to be guys that aren't going to be on the team that are going to play a lot in Detroit this year. And we'll have to see how it plays out. But so far, I mean, it's been very intriguing to see a guy like Joey Wentz make the team and not play through the first, 4 games. And, maybe he is going to come in and piggyback with Wentz tomorrow, or with Mize tomorrow. But that would be an interesting use of him. I figured they would want to piggyback with maybe another righty, maybe use Faedo in that situation. But I mean, maybe Faedo is just another leverage bullpen arm now, because he sure looked like it tonight.
I think you're right about Wentz. There's got to be a reason why we haven't seen him yet, and he hasn't even warmed up once yet. So clearly there's a plan in place. I wonder what the leash is going to look like tomorrow with Mize, assuming we play. I don't know if you've heard, but the rain is supposed to be quite drastic the next couple days. So we'll see if we have a couple rainouts or we actually play these games. But they're clearly holding him for something, and that would be the thing that makes most sense. What about Brisky, man? What do you think they didn't see in Brisky, or what do you think they want to see him improve? What do you think the conversation was with him? How do you think that went down?
Definitely probably awkward because of the kind of spring that he had. He did come in opening day down in Toledo and get the save with a scoreless, hitless inning. Nice. So that was good to see from him. The organization is clearly trusting him and wanting to keep him in that leverage role in the bullpen. I don't know. It's just another one of those things. We've talked about it all spring. Just there's a lot of guys on this team that were fighting for not enough positions. And the way that the team saw it, they wanted the length out of Faedo and they wanted the length out of Wentz, and they wanted to use that early in the year. They're going to have to cover some innings this year. So I kind of get it. I still think you have to reward Faedo's spring and the work that he was able to put in last year to stay on the team almost the entire year. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a toss up, because I think you're going to be disappointed no matter which way that turns out.
Yeah, and it is definitely like the path of least resistance, right? Where Brisky obviously has options. Miguel Diaz seemed to be kind of at his rope with this team. Whether or not we retain him or not, we'll see. But it seems like they saw more upside with Faedo, and then Wentz they just didn't want to give up. They just didn't want to have the roster churn come into effect there. So again, I think we're going to see Brisky relatively soon. But if the bullpen keeps on pitching like this, there's not really a spot for him. So I think we're in good hands. We'll see how Wentz does when he finally does make his appearance, though. Of course, the Tigers games weren't the only games that we were watching over the weekend in wonderful MLB opening weekend, and really the whole opening week that they kind of celebrate in all of MLB. I don't know if you had a couple games in mind. I can kind of pick up these, let you kind of overview and maybe gather your thoughts on a couple that you wanted to bring up. But the games that I was watching, one, it was just nice to have baseball back. I know we talk about it all the time, but it's just there's no sport like it where on a Sunday there's 15 different games happening and you just don't even know where to look next. Like there's no better feeling. And that Mets Brewers series, I mean, the Mets are, of course, still winless, thanks to us, but also thanks to Rhys Hoskins. And Jeff McNeil and Rhys Hoskins, they need to go sort out their issues, because I'm pretty sure if they ever see each other again, someone's going to bring a gun, and it's not going to be good. It's going to be really bad. So that whole situation is brewing. We have the Astros, who, breaking news, for their first win of the year after getting swept by the Yankees over the weekend, pitch a no-hitter to a pitcher I've personally never heard of. He apparently had a few starts last year, but I'm not deep into that organization. So he throws a no-hitter tonight. So we have that situation brewing, but we have the Yankees, who start the year 4-0 against who most would argue is the best team in the West. And then we have, of course, the team that everyone wants to see, the team that everyone's looking out for the whole year to win 107-ish games, the Dodgers. And of course, they beat up, not so much though that it's like very convincing, but they did have a couple good moments against the dreaded Cardinals, who will forever be coined as your Cardinals, because you love them more than the Tigers. I'm only kidding. Your wife does, though. Your wife, that is something for your wife. Baseball is something special, dude. And there's nothing like it. And being able to finally just delve into that whole realm again is very, very freeing for me, because I know I can fake it for a few months with the football thing. The Lions went on an awesome run. That was really, really fun. But there's truly nothing like the MLB. So what were a few of the games that you were keeping an eye on over the weekend?
Yeah, to your point, before I get into a couple of games that I watched, just the amount of storylines that there are at any given moment in baseball just outweighs anything any other sport has going on at any given time. There's just so much happening every single day for 6 months, 7 months. There's nothing that beats it. There really isn't. We have yet again another hot Pirates start. They're 4-0 as well.
What is happening in Pittsburgh?
And they look way more convincing offensively than the Tigers do. I'll just say that.
Also, can we say that Tim Anderson's the curse? Just saying.
It's gotta be.
Just saying, what's happening, Marlins? What's happening?
Marlins haven't won a game yet. I don't know how much he's played. I think he's started at least.
I was gonna say, I think he started at least a few games. Like, I haven't delved too deeply into that, but I've seen him a couple times. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Tim Anderson. There he is. That's him. And I'm just like, and then I look away because I'm like, oh, they're not doing good. Okay, all right, moving on.
Just a lot of these games that are close that probably shouldn't be close early in the year, where everybody likes to jump on the bandwagon. The Yankees look really good, like you said early. They'll find a way to get hurt or something and only win 80-some games and sneak into the playoffs. The Braves took it to the Phillies pretty heftily, and then they destroyed the White Sox today too.
Yeah, so the Braves did. Yeah.
They're picking up where they left off in the regular season last year as well. It's just so much fun to watch this season develop in front of our eyes. It's the best.
What do you think of our friend Juan winning Player of the Week?
It's pretty disingenuous. I mean, we can say that. Player of the Weekend would have been a better.
Yeah,
better
but
title.
I mean, okay, you know what they're driving towards, though. I mean, like he was crazy.
They should have lumped it in with this week. They should have lumped that whole award in for the
I guess I could see that, but Juan Soto has been Really, really good to start with the Yankees. Surprisingly, Oswaldo Cabrera could also be on that list, that short list of who's had an amazing. I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't win Player of the Week. I think he kind of had a mediocre final. Actually, it's not true because I think he hit the home run after. Now I'm thinking about it, if I'm thinking of the same game. So he had a great week, but it's Juan Soto. I get it. He's a little bit more name there. The Pirates, dude. I'm a little scared for them. I'm a little scared of them. They kind of got the same vibe that the Tigers have going, where it's just kind of next man up mentality. Who's going to win us this game? They kind of have a sneaky good bullpen with Chapman and a really sneaky rotation. I know they played the Marlins, and the Marlins are supposed to be better, but who knows, right? I still think, you have manager of the year in Skip. You're going to be able to put wins together. So clearly they're not pressing for those needs. So clearly there's something there with the Pirates that seems to be brewing. And this has kind of been stirring for the last couple years, where it's like this team could start to take the next step. But I don't know. Do they have enough to win their division? Who knows, but it's cool to see them start 4-0, something that obviously they're not really accustomed to the last few years. So as it always goes, there's so many things to follow, so many exciting different storylines like you mentioned, and we're going to be following them all pretty darn closely as the year goes on. So I think, as we kind of continue on or whatever, expanding the conversation to other ball clubs to see and just compare to see what we have to look forward to a lot of these different teams. Because again, I think deep into the season, we're going to be talking about these important games that could decide the fate if we're going to be playing some October baseball this year. We have 2 more games in the Mets series. Will they get played? Will they not get played? Who knows? But I really hope that we get to see Mize tomorrow. We, of course, had Olsen versus Manaea tonight. We didn't even really talk about Reese Olsen. Started out pretty rough tonight. Had a couple walks. Really ended up only throwing a 2-hitter, though, because he settled down really well. Started to spot the fastball much better. His changeup from pitch 1 was amazing. So he kind of knew what was happening and what to go with there. And then, his breaking ball is always going to be really, really good. So once he was able to start landing that fastball, it really calmed him down. Seems to be kind of a pattern with him where he's really amped up to start the game. He's overthrowing. He's not hitting his spots. And then something just in him kind of starts to be like, oh, okay, I've been here before. We can do this. And he had to be good. He had to be good because Manaea was not giving an ounce tonight. So really, really good that we found a way to end up blowing that game open and winning 5-0 to complete the 4-0 start to the year. Mize, of course, going tomorrow. We'll see how much of a leash he has. And then they're throwing out their Hauser, who has not made a start this year yet. And then Skubal will be on Wednesday versus Quintana versus their ace. So what are you looking out for in the rest of this Mets series?
I loved your point about Olsen, by the way. It is such a common statement for us to make. Man, he really seemed unsteady, but somehow he only allowed 2 hits in like 5 or 6 innings. Like, it just seems like that's what happened all of last year, and it's continuing this year. Just such an interesting trend we've seen. Mize, I really hope his debut outing this year doesn't get messed up by rain, because I think they're going to want to treat kind of baby him a little bit through the first start or 2 here. We just be prepared if there's any sort of a delay or anything, or if it gets interrupted. We're going to see a lot of Joey Wentz tomorrow. It's just so everybody can just be prepared for that beforehand. And then I am excited to see Skubal against this Mets roster. His fastball against their right-handed hitters should just be complete theater. I'm really excited about that. And that Hauser kid that's going tomorrow, by the way, didn't they get him from Milwaukee? Am I making that up?
Yep, Adrian Hauser. Yep.
Got it.
He's not a bad pitcher by any means, and actually, I brought up the Baseball Savant pitching matchups, and they do previews for current rosters that the pitcher is pitching against, how the team has done in the past. And let's just say things are not looking great for our Tigers here. All of them combined have 16 plate appearances. We struck out 25% of the time, only walked 6% of the time, and have a combined .54 average against. We'll see. We'll see. Same note. They do, of course, the same thing for Kasey. So his career stats against the current Mets roster, only 12 plate appearances. So a little bit smaller sample size, but 16 strikeouts, 16% strikeouts, 16% walks. So that's not great either. 200 batting average. And the number we're really looking at here is this weighted on base percentage that's kind of like highlighted, and essentially it's expected weighted above or weighted on base average is the stat that is highlighted in these categories, because it's kind of telling you, okay, this is how things could go. And the redder the number, the better the pitcher is, and the bluer the number, the worse the pitcher is. And I'm just going to say that that Mize's number is quite blue. 376 against versus Adrian's 297. Rule of thumb there, anything over 300 is bad for the pitcher. So we'll see how things map out. I think we have a very different Kasey Mize than 2 years ago, because that's what we're dealing with, right? This is Kasey Mize's first real start in basically 2 years. And so I think that's why both of us are so excited, because we want to see what we have. We've seen spring, we've seen doses of very, very good Kasey Mize, and we still see a couple things. It's like, where are we there? What I love to see, though, is he's pumping 96, 97. He looks like a more complete pitcher, and just hopefully he can land that splitter, right, and get people to hit it, or rather, hit it into the ground or swing and miss at it. So, big question: will we be 6-0 at the end of this Mets series?
I'm going to say no, because at least one game gets rained out.
Okay, wait, let me rephrase. Will we be undefeated coming out of the Mets series?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good thing people can't read our text thread. Then we have 3 games against Oakland. Okay. The only reason I say it is because you were pretty down on the offense there for a little bit. You were pretty down.
I think both of these next 2 games get rained out. I think that's my point.
Okay. Well, that's sad.
I think we come home 4-0.
That's very, very sad. And yes, you just alluded to it. We are home for the next series. We have an off day Thursday. Back at it again Friday. Home opener. We already know, because AJ tipped his hand a little bit, but it's just kind of how it goes with the pitching matchups, and obviously what was run out there before. Scooby's going to get the last game. But for the most likely, assuming these games don't get rained out, it will be Kenta to open the home opener. I know he didn't have the best start. I know he didn't look great. But do you think he can pull it together for the home opener?
I think he'll be better than he was against the White Sox. I think it'll help him being at home, him having some stuff to, try to work and improve on. He's a veteran pitcher. He's going to figure some stuff out. I don't think his year is going to be a continuation of that first start in general. I think he probably lands somewhere in between his peak years and the other day in Chicago. But no, he won't be quite that bad. His slider was a cement mixer all day, and that just won't happen every start.
Luis Robert Jr. knows that. Of course, we're going up against.
Doesn't play on the A's, so.
That's exactly what I was saying. Of course, we're going up against Oakland, so anytime you hear that, we feel like we have a chance. The Guardians opened the year against Oakland. They pretty much dealt with them as handily as you would expect. And so we I think it's safe to say that we expect a sweep, but at the very least, we expect the series win, and maybe you can downgrade to we hope for a sweep. Win series, that gets the job done, but it is the A's. We would like to see this team really come alive against not such a great baseball team. However, it is the Tigers. We will probably be somewhat disappointed with some facet as it comes along. I do think if these games get rained out, we of course switch out Maeda for someone for the home opener, so that will be interesting. I think AJ's going to do some reshuffling to see what happens there. Who it will be, I don't know. It would be awesome if we could line up Scooby for that and get everyone a show. He showed it in Chicago. He's ready for the moment. He's the dude. I love the head nod. I love the confidence. Build up your ego as much as you want to, my friend, because you are the dude, and it is showing, and this is your moment. And the moment's not too big for you. So, anything else before we go into the rest of the week, and hopefully some more Tigers baseball before the rain consumes all sadness.
No, I don't think so. So awesome to have baseball back. We're hoping to make these weekly episodes a bit more abbreviated than our monthly ones and even our spring training ones. There'll be a little less to go over every week, but yeah, just hoping to hit the high points of the week, kind of give everybody an idea of what to look for in the games and what's been going on. So we appreciate all the love we've been getting. It's been some very good podcasts the last month and a half here. So we appreciate everybody that listens, and even all of you guys that listen all the way to the end. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Where can the kids find us on the socials, Josh?
We are on all of our socials at Old English D Pod. We're on all of the podcasting platforms at the Old English D. It's a Detroit Tigers podcast. Sometimes that helps to search it that way as well. We are on I think basically every single podcast platform that exists. So it's done really nice like that. So if you don't like us on the podcast you found us on, or on the platform you found us on, try your favorite. We're probably on there too.
Love it. Josh, thank you so much for joining me. Guys, thank you so much for listening. And as always, go Tigers.